I got up from the bench and followed her out the door. There were only two other people there, a guy and a woman. They both looked at us as we left and smiled. All four of us smiled. Clara led me across the road to a residential building and up the stairs to the second floor. The view as we climbed was fantastic, with her swaying and giggling provocatively. She opened the door and stepped back so I could go inside. I quickly looked around the apartment, but she grabbed me from behind and turned me around, pulling me towards her body and raising my face up. I kissed her. In response, she kissed me as passionately as I had ever been kissed before. We broke the kiss and she sighed. I always wanted you. But you were my boss's husband. But now I'll get you. I'm all yours. I laughed, stepped back, and took off my shirt, shoes, shorts, and underwear. Clara took off her sports bra, revealing her beautiful breasts. She took off her shoes and pulled down her spandex shorts. She had a gorgeous, sexy body, smooth, well-muscled, but with curves. She pushed me into the bedroom and laid me on her bed, after which she leaned her elbows on my chest. I started giving her affection and she gasped. And soon she reached a strong climax. Take me hard, Joe. Strong and long. And the two of us worked on it. She was the first to reach the finish line, and I followed her. The climax was as strong and long as ever before. Then we exhaled. I collapsed and rolled off her. After a couple of minutes, she said, "My God, oh Joe, how soon can you recover?" I cannot say exactly. It was the best sex of my life. The answer to her question was, about 60 seconds after she began to restore my manhood. When I was ready again, we started the second round. Only this time, it was she who had me. I didn't mind at all. We climaxed almost simultaneously again, and she collapsed on me. I passed out for a while, and she woke me up. "Go and get your things. Bring them here. You can take a shower here." It was dark. I got dressed and ran to get my clothes. I stuffed everything into my bag and went back out. The woman who had been there before smiled at me as I left. "Had a good time?" "Oh yeah. Thank you for asking." When I returned to Clara, she had already taken a shower. I accepted it too, and put on another pair of sports shorts that were in my bag. That was all. She was wearing a terry robe. I knew I would take it off her later. We will need food and beer. She opened the refrigerator and took out 2 bottles of light ale. Then she reached into the freezer and took out the pizza. She put it in the oven and set the timer. We started drinking beer for now. "So, were you serious when you said you wouldn't take her back?" At that moment, maybe I was a little hasty. But today, with you, maybe this is serious. So, if she did it, then so did you. I mean, having sex with you can be a very convincing argument for moving on. Anyway, why does everyone think she'll want to come back? She must have thought a lot about leaving. She will soon realize that she was stupid. Then maybe she will have the courage to ask you to take her back. But maybe not. She might be too embarrassed. I'll tell you what, she's been having sex with this guy for a long time. I don't think I can come to terms with this. Our relationship is probably in ruins. I can't imagine her telling me to change my mind. Well, big boy, no matter what happens with this, you can always look here, and I will try to drive you crazy. I promise. I finished my beer. The microwave bell rang and she brought out the pizza. We ate it in 15 minutes. We drank more beer. Then we pleasured each other again. And it was amazing. I fell in love. We had sex all night. In the morning, I woke up next to her. Both were naked, and my movement woke her up. She got out of bed and went to brush her teeth, giving me a spare toothbrush. After that, we took a shower together. I had it against the shower wall, standing. I had never experienced anything like the pure sexual madness we were in. After having sex in the shower, we cooked and ate a big breakfast, still naked. Why dress after all? Then they sat on her sofa, digesting food. Soon we had sex again, and we had our usual big release. And she said, "I don't know what to do with all this. I've always been drawn to you. And yesterday, when I saw my chance, I jumped on it," so to speak. Like a tigress, I would say, I never expected anything like what happened. This is amazing and amazing. We just had sex, but I want you again right now. She laughed at the expression on my face. Don't worry. I know you may need time. Maybe. I didn't know how long it would take me. It was like an experiment. 10 minutes, 20? We needed answers. She said, I'm trying to understand what it's all about. She looked at my groin. I was ready again. You are like a machine. Can we talk after the new round? Yes. 20 minutes later, she went to the bathroom. Maybe we should get dressed. Otherwise, we might die. Or have a stroke or something else. Fine. But only for a few minutes. I put on my gym shorts and t-shirt. She put on a dress. However, I was well aware of what was underneath the dress. And what can I do about it? Jesus Christ, what's going on here? Clara was serious. Apparently, she had difficulty integrating the last day into her previous experiences. We may be the most sexually compatible two people in the whole world. This was my real opinion. I thought about it while I brushed my teeth. It didn't take me long to come to this conclusion. I read about sex, discussed with my friends, even read some of Dan Savage's sex advice columns and a few others. But I have never heard of anything like what happened between me and Clara. It seemed like we were in uncharted waters. How long will it be going on? And if so, will we be able to survive? Clara smiled when I said this, but her words made sense. We don't know the answers to these questions, Clara. There's only one way to find out. I think we should move to my place so I can change and check my email. If you sit further away from me in the car, we can get there. Just a short trip. She laughed, and I joined her. We were rolling on the floor laughing. When everything calmed down, we decided to give it a try, so to speak. Our fury subsided slightly. We got dressed and went to my house. As far as I knew, she had never been inside and began to look around. While she was doing this, I managed to do a little work. I went upstairs and changed into new shorts and a new shirt. It was Sunday. I turned on basketball. I found out she was a big fan of his. Me too. We watched for almost an hour before I started fondling her. This time, we went upstairs to the master bedroom. I made love to her tenderly. This took quite a long time and led to another mutual climax. It was amazing. I could count on one hand the number of times this happened to Shelley and I. Clara looked at me and cried, saying, Joey, I fell in love with you. I just want to thank you for everything. Now she was crying, and I started crying too. In the end, we dried ourselves off. I said, I wonder what's in the game. We went back downstairs and watched the last 2 innings. She actually knew a lot about the game and knew when the home team guys would try to steal the ball or make a hit and run. She was completely involved in the game until the very end. Me too. I made us some food, chicken roast. We ate and drank wine. We had a lot of light stroking. Love caresses. Looking at her, eye to eye, I realized that I would always want her to be next to me. She said, I'm in love with you, Joe, and I'll fight to keep it. You don't need to fight. I'm all yours. We went back upstairs. We started with another love match of tender sex. Then again, several times, including in the morning. While we were having breakfast, I said, it's time for me to go to court and then to therapy. Maybe I don't need therapy as much now, but I'll still go. If you're here when I get back, I'll cook the food again. I'll be here. I would say in full dress, but most likely I will be naked. After we laughed, I kissed her and took her home. I was standing in court with a lawyer from my firm when Connor and Shelley came in with their lawyer. Vanguard's lawyer was also present. Judge Colson came to the bench. Shelley didn't look at me. Connor looked back, caught his eye, then turned away. Vanguard's lawyer outlined his concerns and the reason why the transfer was blocked. The order to transfer money came from a computer that was not recognized. He arrived at 3:00 a.m. The email check also led to this computer. The computer was not one that had ever been used for this account before. In addition, the account into which the money was to be transferred did not belong to either Mrs. or Mr. Mason. The algorithm used by the firm blocked the transfer. The money has been blocked until both account holders are notified. The lawyer said his firm did not want to be held liable if there was a dispute over the money. so he was happy to get the TRO. My lawyer said that the money was joint property and was taken without my knowledge or consent, and now even with my objection. He explained that Shelley left me without warning, quit her job, moved to Pittsburgh, and moved in with William Connor. Their lawyer said that Shelley had the same right to withdraw money from the account as I did, and that the money should go to where she was trying to transfer it. The judge asked the guy from Vanguard, "Where should the money be sent?" "To a local bank account belonging solely to William Connor." "Have you already found out whose computer was used during the translation attempt?" "No. This is beyond our power now." The judge said, "I would like Mrs. Mason to take the oath, please." When he said this, Shelley seemed to withdraw into herself. Connor grabbed her hand. The secretary asked her to raise her right hand. She barely managed to do it, but finally did it hesitantly. When asked if she swears to tell the truth, she answered yes. "Mrs. Mason, are you married to Joseph Mason?" "Yes." "Did you jointly own an account with him at Vanguard?" "Yes." "Last week you tried to withdraw $200,000 from this account?" No. She looked around wildly. Connor threw her hand away and stepped aside. "Did you in any way give someone permission to withdraw money?" "Not really." "Explain, please." "Bill, Mr. Connor, asked to borrow $20,000 to pay off several overdue debts. I reluctantly agreed. He asked me for the password. After moving, my computer was not working. I gave him my password. He used his computer and I used it for email. He sat on it for a few minutes and then closed it. I didn't know anything about $200,000. When did you find out that this was exactly the amount they were talking about?" "When I received a written notification." The judge looked at Connor and made a note in his notebook. "Mr. Connor, could you tell me your name and address?" "I'm not here to be a party to this. I came to help Michelle." "Just follow the order, sir." He did it. I already had the information. The judge asked my lawyer, "Is Mr. Mason going to file for divorce?" "Yes. The lawsuit has already been written and will be filed this week. A judge ordered Vanguard to freeze the account until a family law court could review the assets. He told my lawyer that he had to submit the application by the end of the day tomorrow. Otherwise, he would reconsider the freezing decision. I noticed that Shelley had sunk into a chair at the table. Connor ran out. She sat there silently with her head in her hands. The small courtroom was empty. It was just Shelley and I left. The bailiff wanted us to leave so he could lock the door. I took her out into the corridor. Connor was nowhere to be seen. Only a few people walked past in the corridor. I looked at Shelley. "You came here with this idiot?" She stared at me. "Yes. I think you need to take the bus back to your new life." "Joey, I'm sorry this happened. I just thought he was mine. Betrothed. This is what you told your family. Looks like I was wrong. Such a fool. I can't tell you how deeply you hurt and upset me by writing that short note and ending a long marriage. Joey, our marriage is not over. I see that I was stupid. I'd like to go back to be your wife." Tears were flowing down her cheeks. "Sorry, Shelley. It's beyond my power. You've been having sex with that asshole for months behind my back. She ran away without even talking to me. She lived with him as with her husband. Well, you have to accept the bad along with the good. Can't we go somewhere more private? What about the children? They are unhappy with you and you know it. Do you have any real explanation for why you just threw me away like a used napkin?" "No. If you had asked me before, I would have said that he is my soulmate. That's what I said. I thought it would be easier for you if there was a complete break. But I have no explanation, right now, why I was so stupid." She started crying in earnest. I didn't like seeing her in this state, but I refrained from any contact. I'm done with her, at least as a wife. There is a limit to everything. Yes, and Clara, she is my soulmate. Well, at least she is the absolute pinnacle of a sexual partner, and I like her even apart from that. It seems so to me. I asked Shelley what she was going to do. "I have a job in Pittsburgh. I have a shift tomorrow. There, I have to pay rent. I signed a lease for a year. I'll kick Bill out and see what happens. Maybe after a while you will start to miss me. Then let me know, will you? Certainly, I'll probably miss you, but I'd like to know what went wrong. I'm still shocked and confused. I thought that everything was fine with us. I didn't even suspect it. When I can formulate it, I'll let you know. She hugged me and left. I didn't know what to think. Felt a deep sadness, so much so that I cried openly when she crossed the threshold. But underneath the sadness, I had a knot of anger twisting my insides. I decided that a session with a therapist was essential and went to an appointment that afternoon after lunch at Subway. Hot tuna sandwich with a layer of melted cheese. Mary Stevens, a marriage counselor, emphasized that she is not a therapist. She mainly deals with troubled marriages and their consequences, if necessary. At first glance, she was a gray-haired grandmother. But as she crossed the office to shake my hand, she moved with athletic grace, and her smile was sunny and sincere. I liked her right away. "What brings you here, Mr. Mason?" "Please call me Joe." My wife suddenly left me. She left a short note and moved to Pittsburgh to be with her new man. Before that, she had sex with him for about a month. "It's clear. And how did you react?" I explained that I had been completely busy at first, then talked about the session with Jed and the subsequent sessions with the heavy bag. Said I was heartbroken and then I got angry. Now I thought I had both, at the same time. "I think that you quickly went through several stages, which change when marriages end. Depression, sadness, anger. Usually they can alternate for quite a long time. How are you feeling now?" "Well, I'm confused. I was at the gym, lifted weights. It was venting anger, I guess. There was a pretty nurse there, Clara Barton, who I knew through Shelley, if you can believe it. I cornered her and asked her what Shelley was doing at work with the idiot doctor. She didn't want to tell, but still, she told something. Then I noticed her in spandex on the treadmill. There was a mirror there. She saw me staring at her. She looked at me like that, and I stared back. The next thing I remember is that we are in her apartment across the street, having sex. And I've never done this before. We just didn't leave each other's side. All night and the next day. This has been going on for several days now. I had a hard time making it to today's court hearing. Mary Stevens looked shocked at first, but then she started smiling. I already said how much I love her smile. So you are, at least sexually, attracted to Clara Barton, the nurse. Now she was almost laughing. There was a sparkle in her eyes. She asked, "How did she get this name Barton? A man's name? And became a nurse?" I'm ashamed to say, but I didn't ask her about it. When we have time to talk, I'll ask. So far, we haven't talked much. I'm tempted to ask for details. But no, it would be inappropriate. She tilted her head in a certain way. We sat on 2 chairs on opposite sides of the table. She crossed her legs and smiled. I started to react. This woman harassed me, and she looked completely different from the grandmother I saw for the first time. I suspected something was wrong and said, "It seems to me that you are showing me something, some way to show me what I experienced. I don't know how else to express this." "Well?" She changed her expression, looking at least surprised and, so to speak, impressed, and then said, "Amazing insight on your part, especially for a man. You got the point right away. I must be losing my qualifications. Oh no, you have achieved the desired effect, believe me." I crossed my legs and turned away from her. Well, the point I was trying to get across, and I think I got across, is that you can be especially sexually vulnerable at this time. You can become prey to women who see an opportunity in you. I'm not saying that Clara's feelings for you are not sincere. I'm also not saying that your reciprocity is not sincere, although somewhat one-dimensional, but I think you should get to know her better once you two can find time to talk. I'm sure we'll find the time, Mary. She even laughed out loud. You're a quick thinker, Joe. I understand you. Clara said she always found me attractive but forbidden fruit. Well, Joe, I don't want to spoil our relationship, yes, and I can't. However, I want to say that what you described goes beyond what might be typical for outside sex. It is quite possible that everything is real and for a long time. There have been documented cases of extreme sexual compatibility. Very unusual. Maybe because there are more of them, but they are not reported as often. I only bring this up because I want to try to separate your new relationship with Clara from your marriage for the time being. Why? Isn't a new relationship part of my choice? Yes, they are. However, I would like to deal with the marriage as it was, and this may affect your future behavior. Okay, I understand. Well, we had, as it seemed to me, a good, strong marriage. I loved her. I thought that she loved me too. We raised our children and did not argue often. At times, and I'm a trial lawyer, at times I worked very, very hard. But I always found time for our relationship, at least for sex. And before she left? A long trial has just ended. About a month of no sex. Neither for me nor for her. She received it elsewhere, and I didn't even notice. My fault. So Shelley's youngest child, her only daughter, is off to college. You were very busy, and she probably felt old. Maybe this happened. Maybe. But she needed to talk to me about it. She didn't. I just decided to marry someone else. For some complete asshole, thief, idiot. What would you do if she told you that she feels lost, or that she is being tempted, or worse, that she had given in to temptation? In the first two cases, I would try to help. Maybe I will come to you. And if she already had sex with him, then it's too late, I think. So, having cheated, you won't be able to stay. Mostly, it is very important for me. I kept my promise. Well, until she left me. But that's a pretty hard line, right? What if it was just a drinking session for one evening? Same thing. Or maybe not, depending on what she did when she got drunk. In any case, what are all these hypotheses for? In real life, she did what she did, and this is completely unacceptable. Fine. I'd like to continue this next week? Certainly. You are a very interesting woman, completely unexpected. I'll be glad to see you again. That is, if you're not too tired, she smiled. We set a time. Since it was already 4, I decided to go home. When he arrived, Clara was sitting on the porch reading. We didn't talk for long. We just said hello. Then we lay in bed for 90 minutes. Afterwards, we prepared food, fried potatoes, spring onions, minced lamb, spices, hot spices. The taste was great. I told Clara about the hearing. While we were cooking and eating, we were not completely naked. Almost, but not quite. I'd like to talk if you don't mind. I tried not to pay attention to Clara's bare breasts. To cook and eat dinner, she wore shorts, but no top. Fine, just a second. Clara took the t-shirt and put it on. Thank you. Maybe we can find some time. We are full and dressed. Maybe. She said, I think this is a serious topic. About what? I went to see a psychotherapist today. After the hearing, I told her about what we had with you and how it kept growing. She called it sexual hypercompatibility. I think this means that we are sexually obsessed with each other. She said this could be a recovery for me, but she doesn't really think so. She said that sex during recovery is not like what I described. I admit, I was curious about how we can just keep going like this. I'm sure, absolutely sure. But if you took off your shorts, I'd be on my knees in no time. This is strange. I need to make a decision about Shelley, the divorce, all of this. She returned to Pittsburgh, but not to the asshole. She said that she had rent and work. This was after I told her it was over between us. Sounds like she might be looking in Pittsburgh for something. Don't know. I can only say that if what we have is real, I will not give it up. But it hasn't been that long since I was in a so-called happy marriage. I'm disoriented. Before I make any permanent decisions, I want to get to know you in a non-biblical way. Sounds like a plan. What would you like to know? All. Clara talked about her suburban upbringing, college, and relationships there. They broke up after college. She graduated as a nurse, got a job here, met and married a doctor. He was a gynecologist. I was happy with our life, but he changed me. I got involved with a woman from our area and wasn't careful enough. I found out about this and told him. He apologized and asked for forgiveness. I decided to save the marriage. This was a mistake. About a year later, he started doing it again. I received a good amount in the divorce. He moved his practice to New York. I haven't seen him since then. 5 years have passed. I had several short-term relationships. And last year, I had a friend with benefits until he moved to Thailand. Are you thinking about going abroad? No. And when we met at the gym, how much time had passed since then? Almost a month, and it wasn't very good. I do have a vibrator, though. Well, now you have me. I leaned over and kissed her. I didn't want to interrupt the conversation, but he interrupted himself. Later, in bed, we continued it. She asked about me, and I gave her a fairly complete account of my life so far. She knew quite a lot about the last few years, so I focused on earlier events. And we actually fell asleep. I think the body can only handle so much. Over the next few days, our sex marathon resumed, but at a slightly reduced level. I came to Mary Stevens again. She asked about a new relationship. I said that sex is great, but not so constant. He also said that Clara loves baseball and knows a lot about it. Describe our stories about our former life. Said, I thought it would take a long time to really get to know Clara, but he also said that he would like to try. We then discussed my marriage in more detail. Mary said that I would also need time to deal with my emotional reaction to what had happened. She then asked me about my feelings for Dr. Connor. I realized that I hadn't been paying him that much attention. When he did this, he got angry. My feelings can be expressed in 3 words: done and quartered. She smiled. I always liked this phrase, but it's so barbaric. But this is how I feel now. As a concept, drawn and quartered has a certain appeal. I believe it was done with a living person, to begin with. Oh yes. Now I'm wondering how you know so much about this. We're not talking about me. I am an ordinary person with emotions that have nothing to do with it. She was still smiling. You know, if it weren't for Clara, I would have asked you out on a date. I understand that you did this on purpose as a demonstration, but it was extremely effective. Just to let you know, actually, I believe you did. Yes. I've always had talent. If I didn't see you as a patient, I could use it on you. But now it is prohibited. We have finished our session, but I signed up 2 weeks later. I asked Shelley to file for divorce. She had a lawyer, and the divorce went smoothly because there were no minor children. It took about 8 months. Shelley was still in Pittsburgh. I occasionally talked to her on the phone. She said she was going on dates, and I told her about Clara. Shelley relented when I mentioned it. This girl has always wanted you. I saw. I'm such an idiot. There was steam coming off of her. As for Clara, she moved into my house. I bought Shelley's share. Our sexual compatibility has returned to normal. I told her I loved her and wanted our relationship to continue. I don't need marriage. I've already been burned. Clara didn't have children, but she wanted them. At least one. We discussed this. She is 37. I treated all this as if inhibited. One day, she told me that she had stopped taking her pills. She knew there was conflict within me. But after she stopped taking the pills, she just fucked me into submission. And I was happier than ever when she announced that she was pregnant. I knew she was pregnant, and that made sex even more exciting for both me and her. I would never have believed that this was possible. A few days after Clara and I tied the knot in the office of a judge I knew well, our daughter Linda was born. Her parents, my children, everyone was there. Shelley married again to a pediatrician from Pittsburgh whom she met at a convention in Dallas. Like this. I hope she's happy. She made a stupid mistake and I still blame her for it, but everything turned out very well for me. How can I carry resentment inside me? Well, maybe a little. As for Connor, I didn't do anything to him. He did everything himself. I understand he went bankrupt, had his license to practice revoked, and is working at a gas station in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. Clara and I have 2 children, Linda and Stephen, in honor of her father, a great guy. The compatibility never ended. Until now. And now I believe it never will. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.